For what purpose does the gentleman from Oklahoma seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend the rules and pass H.R. 1554 as amended.
Clerk will report the title of the bill.
H.R. 1554, a bill to make certain property in McIntosh County, Oklahoma, into trust for the benefit of the Muscogee Creek Nation and for other purposes.
Pursuant to the rule, the gentleman from Oklahoma, Mr. Bourne, gentleman from Washington, Mr. Hastings, each will control 20 minutes. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Oklahoma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend their remarks and include extraneous material on the resolution under consideration.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. Speaker, H.R. 1554 would take certain property in McIntosh County, Oklahoma, into trust for the benefit of the Muscogee Creek Nation. The Creek Nation has over 69,000 enrolled citizens at its headquarters in my district in beautiful eastern Oklahoma. As part of their effort to provide economic development in this very rural area of Oklahoma, the nation purchased the Fountainhead Lodge and 48 surrounding acres from the state of Oklahoma. Fountainhead was once touted as the state's premier resort lodge, but the property had fallen into disrepair. The Creek Nation has hopes to turn the property into a destination resort at Lake Eufaula, bringing much-needed tourism dollars to this distressed area, one of the poorest in the nation. The property included a hotel, recreational building, duplex cabins, as well as 18 acres of Army Corps of Engineers, the property as a lease. A subsequent survey determined that the recreational building was located entirely on the Corps land. The Corps suggested that they transfer the ownership of the leased land to the Creek Nation to assist in the development of the property. So on April 21, 2010, the Committee on Natural Resources held a hearing on this legislation. The administration testified in support of the bill, but expressed concerns with the manner in which it was drafted. At the full committee markup, I offered an amendment in the nature of a substitute to address their concerns. The bill as amended was favorably reported by voice vote. Additional changes have been made to H.R. 1554. This bill now prohibits gaming on the lands that are subsequent to this legislation. Further, a provision was added to ensure that if there are hazardous materials on the lands, the federal government remains responsible for cleaning them up. Finally, language was added to account for any budgetary impacts this legislation may have. Enactment of H.R. 1554 would allow the Creek Nation to move forward with their plans to build a full-scale lake resort. This project will bring hundreds of much-needed jobs and economic prosperity to the region. Resolutions of support for this project have been passed by members of the legislature from the Lake Eufaula area, Shakota Chamber of Commerce, City of Henrietta, City of Eufaula, and the Lake Eufaula Association. And I ask my colleagues to support passage of this legislation, and I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Oklahoma reserves the balance of his time. Gentleman from Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself as much time as I may consume.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the gentleman from Oklahoma has adequately described the purpose of this bill, and I am pleased to lend my support to this bill, which will enable the Muscogee Creek Nation of Oklahoma to acquire lands that will put it into productive use at no cost to the taxpayer. And I also appreciate the sponsor, the gentleman from Oklahoma, and the chairman of the committee that to iron out the minor technical concerns that were brought up in relation to gaming in the original version of the bill. I think those improvements add to this bill, and I urge adoption, and with that, I reserve my time.
Gentleman reserves the balance of his time. Gentleman from Oklahoma.
Mr. Speaker, I submit for the record an exchange of letters between the Committee on Natural Resources and the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure concerning H.R. 1554.
Without objection, so ordered.
I also would like to ask the gentleman, the ranking member, if he has any additional speakers.
I do not. I'm prepared to close as the gentleman is.
Okay.
With that, Mr. Speaker, this is a good bill as it has been amended, and I yield back my time.
Gentleman from Washington yields back the balance of his time. Gentleman from Oklahoma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also want to particularly I want to thank the chairman for allowing us to have the hearing for the markup But I really want to say a special thank you to the ranking member and his staff for working with us on these technical changes, making sure that everything was ironed out. And I want to thank all the hard work that the Creek Nation has put into this legislation. I want to thank the chief, the council, and all the community leaders that have made this possible. I ask for a yes vote, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Oklahoma yields back the balance of his time. The question is now, will the House suspend the rules and pass H.R. 1554 as amended? Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 being the affirmative, the rules are suspended.
Mr. Speaker, on that, I request a recorded vote.
Does the gentleman ask for the ayes and nays?
A recorded vote.
Ask for the ayes and nays?
Yes.
The yeas and nays are requested. All those in favor of taking this vote by the yeas and nays will rise and remain standing until counted. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered, and pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, the chair's prior announcement, further proceedings on this motion will be postponed.